my name is Bianca.
Hi, I'm Christelle.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
Hi, I'm Lydia.
Carissa.
Michelle.
All right, hi, and welcome to our presentation on fertility education on the results we obtained from this intervention. I'd like to just start with a question. As a person in an advanced profession, have you ever thought about delaying starting a family in order to advance your career? I want you to take a moment and imagine that you are in your late 20s or 30s. You have just spent years taking all the right classes, volunteering, and working really hard to finally be able to apply to one of the most competitive graduate programs in the country. After making it through the interview, you finally get a call telling you that you've been accepted into your dream school, and you are ecstatic about it. There is just one problem. You notice that most of your friends who aren't advancing their education are starting to have children. Having or adopting children has always been one of your priorities. You begin to realize that you're about to start a very rigorous 3-year program and are moving away from school, making the possibility of having a child during school nearly impossible. So you begin to think about when would be the right time to start a family. You think of all the scenarios and realize that there is some sort of obstacle in all of them. Going through all the scenarios in your head is something that begins to plague you. It creeps into your mind while you're studying, trying to relax, and especially any time you get another birth announcement from a friend. As many times as you try to think about it, you never seem to be able to pinpoint that right time. This story, or stories similar to this, are all true for all of us in this group. A quote from Gina Bartazzi says it best: "Our most productive careers collide with our most productive reproductive years." We knew that we could not be the only ones feeling this way. So we decided to research this and found that this issue spans among many professions and especially in the medical field.
So we sent an initial needs assessment survey to all 3 classes in the USCPA program. Our initial results showed a resounding 96% of our female colleagues have given thought to the issue of fertility and career advancement. What's even more remarkable is that more than half of everyone who answered, about 58%, replied that they think about it often or think about it constantly. The needs assessment also revealed that the majority, about 73%, experienced a negative psychological response, such as worry, stress, guilt, or burden when weighing starting a family or advancing their careers. And when asked to rate their understanding of assisted reproductive technology, or ART for short, almost 63% reported minimal knowledge and about 11% reported no knowledge. So we stepped back and zoomed out a little bit. We thought maybe these high percentages were due to our small sample size and because we're all students who are busy studying for classes and may not have time to research ART. So this led us to wonder how our statistics compare to practicing healthcare workers around the world. And our preliminary research showed that practicing female healthcare providers were not necessarily more knowledgeable regarding their fertility when compared to the general population. The article shown here found that female healthcare professionals considered motherhood to be important, but many expected to have their first child at an age when female fertility has markedly declined. Many respondents underestimated the impact of age on fertility in women and overestimated the success of ART. When compared to younger university students or the general population, female healthcare professionals neither had higher fertility awareness, nor were they more knowledgeable about fertility and potential outcomes of medically assisted reproductive treatment. At this point, we determined 2 key things. First, the lack of fertility awareness is pervasive among practicing healthcare professionals as well as future providers such as ourselves. And the second is that there's a negative psychological response when contemplating starting a family or advancing careers. Tying this back to Healthy People 2020, we identified 2 objectives that were in line with our preliminary findings. MHMD4, which is to reduce the proportion of persons who experience major depressive episodes, and MICH 16.1, which is to increase the proportion of women delivering a live birth who discuss preconception health with a healthcare provider or worker prior to pregnancy. While this is not an explicit objective, about fertility education. Discussing preconception health with a healthcare worker can lead to further discussions about a woman's fertility.
So once we established that there was indeed a need in the community regarding fertility education, and there were psychological effects associated with delaying family planning, it was time for action. So we thought, what better way to get the attention of our fellow classmates than providing free pizza lunch and raffle prizes? So we planned an information session with the three main goals in mind: to educate people regarding fertility and assisted reproductive therapies, to empower and provide tools for advocacy in the workplace, and this would be done by conducting a mock interview with Dr. Lohenry posing as a physician or hiring personnel. And number three, to decrease psychological effects associated with delaying family planning. But life threw us a curveball, and the COVID-19 epidemic hit our world hard. So with classes going virtual, we knew we had to adapt quickly and embrace this new reality. So we turned our intervention into a virtual pre-recorded information session, bearing in mind that the new challenges would arise, mainly with the number of participants willing to view our video amidst this increased stress and uncertain times. Nevertheless, we sent out the emails and gave participants 4 days to complete the virtual information session. The email included the links for the pre-test, of about 40-minute intervention video, and then a post-test. We also replaced the funds allocated for the pizza party and instead purchased higher amounts of gift cards to incentivize number of participants and to help them with their quarantine needs. Our team then met via Zoom, and then we went over our results, which will be later discussed.
When implementing a program in the community, it is important to evaluate the level of health literacy before designing the intervention. Since our target audience were graduate students, we didn't anticipate encountering any participants that would have a low level of health literacy. Some of the considerations we tried to keep in mind when designing our intervention were to use plain language and to limit information to a few key points. We tried to be as specific as possible and used as many diagrams and images as possible. Unfortunately, we were unable to do a teach back since our intervention was moved online, but that was definitely a consideration of ours as well. Regarding smoke, given the complexity of the topic, we were not able to get it to a 6th grade reading level, but we simplified it as much as we could. We are also aware of the importance of cultural competency. Our intervention was designed to include males and females in our project. We recognize that same-sex couples might benefit from fertility education and might have the same concerns as heterosexual couples regarding family planning. Our project focuses not only on normalizing the conversation about fertility, but also on raising awareness and empowering future healthcare providers. Bianca will further discuss the part for advocacy.
In designing our pre-test and our post-test and our intervention, we were measuring 4 parameters. First, knowledge. That's knowledge of fertility timeline and of ART. Secondly, the psychological effects that arise as a result of this dilemma. Third, feelings of empowerment. And fourth, intentions of using ART in the future and of advocating for fertility benefits. So this is a question that measured knowledge. We saw a 20% improvement in knowledge regarding fertility timeline, with almost 100% of our respondents answering correctly after the intervention. Similarly, in this measure of knowledge, we saw about the same increase in knowledge that we saw in the previous question. Here, before the intervention, about 80% of participants correctly identified 2 examples of ART, whereas after the intervention, 100% of participants were able to correctly identify the 2 examples. And as we saw in our needs assessment, over 90% of participants reported that they had thought about delaying a family in order to advance their career. And of that subset, over 70% reported that they felt psychological effects as a result of that. And so mitigating those psychological effects was definitely one of the goals of our intervention. In our pretest, 50% of participants reported that they would feel less stressed if they had more information about ART benefits. In our post-test survey, 85% of participants reported that they did in fact feel less stressed after learning more about ART as a result of our intervention. Empowering our participants was also one of our main goals in designing our intervention. Prior to our intervention, 60% reported that they did not feel confident about discussing ART with others, and 30% felt neutral. In other words, that's over 90% of participants who did not feel confident. However, after our intervention, over 80% of participants said they felt confident or very confident. We saw a similar pattern in participants feeling more open to talking about this issue with colleagues. In our pre-test, about 65% said they would feel open to talking about this with their colleagues. However, in our post-test, 100% felt more open. In terms of intention, we went from about 80% of people saying they weren't sure whether they would advocate for fertility benefits as part of their health insurance to about 80% saying that they would. And finally, in terms of intention to use ART, we went from the majority of participants being unsure whether they would use ART in the future to the majority of reporting likely to use ART in the future if necessary. To summarize our results, we saw an increase in knowledge, a decrease in the negative psychological effects, an increase in feeling of empowerment, and an increase in intention. While we did expect all these to improve in those manners, what we didn't expect was by how much they would improve by. In particular, with respect to empowerment, I think we were all blown away with the dramatic improvements in feelings of empowerment. This was really surprising and unexpected in a good way. And these were the 5 objectives that guided our intervention, and we were happy to see that all 5 were indeed met.
Although our results showed improvement in the areas we wanted to inform our audience in, we did have some limitations in our intervention that we would like to discuss. Since our presentation, along with the pre-test and post-test, was done virtually and sent by an email, we did not have control of our audience and could not count how many people attended or watched our intervention. In our needs assessment, we did have 70 individuals who expressed interest in our topic. And although we sent all 3 links to over 180 individuals, we ended up with 28 individuals who completed all 3 interventional tasks. We may have had a small sample size due to our intervention video being on the longer side, and if we were to shorten our video, the possibility of having more individuals complete the 3 interventional tasks may have risen. Due to this reason, we ended up with a small and inconsistent sample size. Furthermore, since we could not present to a set audience due to unforeseen circumstances such as COVID-19, we did move forward and create a virtual presentation. Even though this took away from a live Q&A to be able to answer some lingering questions or thoughts, a solution could have been to host a live Zoom of our presentation followed by a live question and answer with the audience. Some limitations were out of our control, and some we created solutions in order to have an empowering and informative presentation.
Now, we can confidently say that we reached the objectives set at the beginning of our project. One of them was to empower participants to advocate for fertility benefits, and after our intervention, there was a 35% increase in the feelings of empowerment, and a little over 60% increase in the intention to advocate for fertility benefits. Our second goal was to decrease the psychological stress felt by graduate students when deciding to postpone starting a family to further their education. We're proud to report a 38% decrease of psychological stress after our intervention. However, we wish we would have hosted an in-person workshop, given that we expect that we would have had a greater impact.
For those of you who weren't able to join our intervention, here's our main takeaway points. So we're urging employers to recognize the need and value in offering fertility benefits to their employees. Offering fertility benefits gives employers a competitive edge in attracting and maintaining top talent. But despite the growing demand, the majority of companies are still lagging behind in their benefit offerings. We also want to emphasize employee loyalty. Studies have shown that benefits improve employee loyalty. Nearly 2/3 of employees who've had IVF treatments covered are more likely to remain in their current job for a longer period, and more than half were willing to overlook the shortcomings of their employer. Millennial workforce really values fertility, and this generation is becoming a driving force in the global economy, such that by 2025, millennials will make up as much as 75% of the workforce. As millennials, now aged 23 to 38, are starting to or thinking about starting their families, more companies need to turn their attention towards benefits that support this journey. Now, as someone desiring these benefits, what can you do? First, we want to emphasize breaking stigma. It's okay to have honest conversations with one another about this struggle, and more conversations normalize this topic and will help you in advocating. Just as an FYI, National Infertility Awareness Week is coming up later this month. Next, we urge you to stay informed. Talk to your provider. It doesn't matter what stage you are in contemplation, just tell your provider if you're thinking about pursuing ART in the future. Many fertility clinics also host information sessions for free and provide more information about ART and their services. Next, understand your insurance benefits. It can be very daunting trying to decipher your benefits, but knowing your benefits will really help you navigate the most cost-effective route. Also, keep a pulse on your state's laws on infertility benefits, laws, and regulations. Just wanted to emphasize that up till April 1st, gestational surrogacy was actually illegal in the state of New York, but on April 2nd, that was overturned and it's now legal. Lastly, don't be afraid to talk to your employer. The entire University of Michigan education system adopted fertility benefits after one woman advocated for fertility coverage. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we hope that this was a valuable tool for you all. Thank you.
Thank you.